It is your Classic Metal Show right here on theclassicmetalshow.com. That is a new band so to speak. We'll get into that in a minute. The band is called Vessel of Light. The song there was called One Way Out. And on the line right now is the guitarist of that band. He's also well known in the metal world. If you're an underground guy like I am that loved bands like Nonfiction or Hades or even Curse of the Damned that was a little less under the ground. But this guy can play some guitar. He's an old friend of the Classic Metal Show. It is guitarist Dan Lorenzo. Dan, how are you, man?
Mr. Aiken, long time no talk, my friend.
It has been a long time, man, but it's exciting to hear that you're back playing guitar. I'm going to be honest, I thought you retired.
Yeah, I retired from all the money I made on Hades. We make almost like $1,000 a year publishing still, so... No, I really kind of did retire, musically anyway. I mean, right. I have a great job, and I'm happily married. I'm one of those weird guys, everything goes perfectly. And I really didn't pick up a guitar for like 10 years. I mean, occasionally I'd pick up to play along with some old Aerosmith or old Kiss or whatever. But then I discovered a band on YouTube called Ancient Wisdom.
Sure.
And I fell in love with the song The Opposition, and then I fell in love with the song Deathlike. And I'm like, man, I got to reach out to this guy just to say, great stuff, And
right.
It kind of all took off from there.
Now talk about that, man. That is such a different way to put a band together, and especially somebody that like you that has done this for a long time. It kind of eliminates almost everything that you probably knew about building a band in the first place by, doing it the YouTube way instead of let's get in a room, let's see how it feels, let's see if we gel. How different was that for you?
Incredibly different, because I've had some people so Nathan lives in Cleveland. I live in New Jersey, which is super close to New York, and there's a lot of opportunities, a lot of musicians, and some fairly big name musicians, at least in our world, have, over the 10 years have said, hey man, I want you to come play guitar for my band. We're going to kick out my guitar player. And I'm like, hey, not so fast, man. I mean,
right.
I'm flattered, but I'm not really into playing guitar anymore. And I realized the real reason is I can't really join somebody else's band, whether they're friends or whatever. I'm a songwriter. I'm not a really good musician, so I prefer to write my own songs. And I'm not really into playing other people's songs, honestly. There's not too many bands that I would be like, yeah, man, I want to join your band. If it's not AC/DC or Kiss playing the first 6 albums, or Coup d'etat if Wendy O. Williams came back to life,
right.
There's just not that much that would really get me off of, the basketball courts and off of the couch, hanging out with my wife watching Jeopardy to go rehearse and jam with bands. And I'm kind of really only into my own songs,
Right. Sure.
But then I fell in love with Ancient Wisdom, which is probably the weirdest thing ever, because Nathan's a Satanist. I have a Jesus tattoo and I go to church. And I just thought there's songs that I heard from them. I'm like, these are the catchiest songs I've ever heard. So I just started emailing Nathan, and we spoke on the phone. And I can't tell you that I was, looking to join a band with him, but, he's younger than me. Just the whole thing would be weird for me to even ask him. But when he said, hey, what's going on with our side project, he sent me this email out of the blue.
Right.
And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, let's write some songs together. And I'm like, I was fucking stoked, because
right.
I'm like, here's a young guy from Cleveland, the great city of Cleveland, right?
Right.
And he wanted to get involved with an old timer like me. So I always have riffs laying around, after I did the Curse record with Bobby Blitz, I still, would write occasionally, but not much. So it all came together, like you said, in kind of a weird way,
Sure.
Unusual.
It is. And, it's one of those things that the old school guys, and I'll put you and I both in that category, the old school guys a lot of times resist that. They resist trying it, the more modern way. And to be fair to the younger kids, I don't want to be the millennial basher guy, but to be fair to the younger kids, there's not a lot of reason to do it the old fashioned way, because there's not money in it anymore. Not that you ever got rich doing Hades or what have you, but there's not. I guess there's not a lot of thought of wealth anymore, which makes it that much more difficult for a young kid to say, okay, well, I'm going to move to your city and we're going to jam for 6 months and we're going to see if we can get gigs and blow
right.
it up. You know
right.
what I mean?
Yeah. And, you know, you're right. Like the millennials will say, I'll say, hey, man, the millennials, they're too lazy. They want everything handed to them. But at the same time, I can't relate to my peers who listen to, I should have named the bands, but like a band like Saxon or a band like Running Wild or Dora. They're all over the new Rock Hard German magazine. And then I get a review where we get a 7 in the Rock Hard. I'm like, man, you guys are so old. You don't know what's cool. And, you know, that's okay. You know, some people age. You know, I'm 55. I don't feel 55. I don't look 55. I play basketball with kids who are 22, 26 years old. I mean, I don't want to be an old fucking man who only thinks classic rock is the only good music out there. Mm-hmm. That being said, do I understand death metal? I really don't. You know, I can't say I do. But I'm at least open to checking new things out. I don't want to sit at my house with blinders on and not see and notice anything new and just dismiss it just because it's new.
Yeah. And dude, on this show, we get that all the time. We get people that, you know, apparently their calendars did not go to 1990. You know, it stops right at 89 and they don't listen to anything.
Have you been to Germany?
Yeah.
Have you been to Germany lately? It is currently 1980. Like, I'd say it's September of 89 at best. And it's funny because there's some cool people in Germany, but man, I whenever I go to Europe, my wife and I, we just bust out when we see the clothes they wear, and you jump in a taxi and the music they listen to. You're like, what the fuck is this? You know, hey, you got better architecture than Americans, you got better food than Americans, but man, your taste in music is fucked up. But you know, it's funny. I could say that and I can laugh at the German taste of music, but of course they want Hades to get back together and play a festival. So it's like I appreciate that, but you know, I just wish they were a little more open-minded to somewhat newer music that's not thrash. You know?
And you're so right, dude. You watch these, you know, I always watch, you know, the Wacken Festival always does a great job with the video on YouTube. So I watch a lot of those videos of the bands that are performing. And I mean, it's all the old characters from the mid '80s. Yep. It's Halloween, it's Saxon, it's Judas Priest, and that's not a bad thing. But you know, there are some bands that are out there doing it right now too that, you know, that could fit. And none of them ever seem, the closest they come to getting a modern band is they get like Steel Panther, which is a modern band playing to the classic sound. You know, it really is interesting.
Yeah, and there are bands like, if you know, I just put out a little EP just for fun, a little CD, I should say, with Jimmy Shulman and Ron Lipnicki called Cassius King. Right. And we covered songs, old Aerosmith, old Kiss, old Sabbath, old AC/DC. So there are bands that, you know, I like old school music, but I don't need to hear Bruce Dickinson's 17th record with Iron Maiden. I feel like I've heard that before. So that's what I kind of don't get. Like, if Saxon has a new album, is it any different than their last 25 out? I mean, I don't really hear any difference. Right. You know?
No, you're right.
So it's funny, like I don't want to be like certain people and bash, you know, the people who are my age and playing that old school sound, but I just don't get it because I have a super ass short attention span, man. Right. And maybe that's why some of my bands haven't lasted that long, because like when Hades did The Downside, I was like, man, this is the best thing we've ever done. Then we did Damnation. I thought we took a step backwards, actually, a little bit. And I'm like, you know, time to kill it. You know, nonfiction, we did Preface, In the Know, It's a Wonderful Lie. I fell in love with my wife. I'm like, you know, it's time to end it. We said what we could say. You know what I mean? And that's probably why there wasn't a follow-up to the record I did with Blitz, The Cursed. We both had such a fucking great time doing it. Nobody cared. Why bother doing another one, you know? Yeah, and
that's a good point, man. And, you know, it's interesting, too, because listen, and I'm going to pull it back to Vessel of Light. Vessel of Light, from the songs that I've heard, is that style that I personally believe would appeal to those people that are old school as well as new school, that it's not quite all the way stoner rock metal type of a thing, but it has that fuzzed out guitar element, but it's thick and it's got hooks in it, and it's, you know, it's heavy, and you know, it feels like what the progression for those guys that stopped listening to metal at Judas Priest and Deep Purple would get into if they would expand their horizons today.
Yeah, I agree completely. And with Nathan Opposition on vocals for Vessel of Light, I mean, he's a hipper, younger, cooler guy. His first tour ever was with Ghost. Okay. You know, with Ancient Wisdom, opening for good. So he's like on the more of the cutting edge, and these guys, they listen to it, it sounds a little different, and they dismiss it because they're 55 and, you know, they act 55. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just not for me, man. I'm not going to go gently into that good night.
Sure. Now, Dan, talk a little bit about writing, because you obviously you are a songwriter, and this is a different way to write. You know, just by doing it, I'm going to assume that you write some ideas and you either email it or you record it and send it as an MP3, and then without. It's hard to even explain what I'm thinking here, but without looking the other guy in the face and watching his reaction, he's blindly giving you ideas back, or vice versa. Is it hard to connect, you know, on song ideas when you don't have that face-to-face, feel-to-feel reaction to the riff or the lyric or the, you know, the tone or any of that as you develop a song?
It could be for mere mortals, but not for Nathan and I. So what we did is I mailed him a bunch of my riffs, which are basically finished songs, verse, chorus, out, or maybe one riff, and then I'll mail him a whole bunch of things. I wish I knew how to make an MP3. I send him CDRs through the mail from New Jersey to Cleveland. So he gets them, and he's like, I like number 6. I'm like, what's number 6? And he's like, it's called, you know, the blah, blah song, the Doom song. So I'm like, oh, yeah, okay. He's like, that's only one riff, though? I'm like, oh, no, now I'll write more to it. If you like it, I'll write more to it, you know?
Sure.
So we did that for maybe a month or two, and then I drove out to Cleveland in June of last year, and we jammed. We had 2 rehearsals in his basement in Cleveland, and then a month later, we went back to Noah Buchanan's studio in Cleveland, or right outside maybe Avalon, Ohio, and we thought we had a 12-hour day to record. So we had 6 songs. We got there, we found out we had 7 hours to record. So we literally recorded 6 songs in 7 hours. I drove home the 7.5 hours back to New Jersey. We had some rough mixes. I was on my way to Hawaii. The flight got delayed. I sent MP3s to Metal Blade Records and Argonauta Records. Argonauta wrote back right away, let me hear one more song. I sent them another song. Flight was delayed another couple hours. I want to sign you.
Wow.
So that's how we did the first EP, very quickly. 2 rehearsals, 7 hours together in the studio, and then Nathan finished up some vocals after we got signed. And then for the new record, Vessel of Light Woodshed, we did this in a way that I've never recorded before. I was sending Nathan all my song ideas, and Son of Man, and over the phone he sang me his melody line, and I'm like, holy shit, this guy's he's just got it, man.
Right.
So I went to the studio by myself, I think in January or February of this year, recorded 13 new songs to a click track, just guitars, no drums, nothing. Finished the album, and my part anyway, sent everything to Nathan. He started singing over it, or playing drums first, and then I'm like, you know what, I got to change these couple bass lines now because of the way the drums are moving. So I redid some of the bass, and then Nathan finished all the vocals. So for Vessel of Light Woodshed, it was the first time I ever recorded this way, where I did all the guitars first to a click track. We never rehearsed together. We just finished an album. In my opinion, it's our fucking masterpiece. We cannot do any better than this. And then this Saturday night, we're playing in the Bowery Ballroom. It's sold out. We're opening up for Life of Agony and Silver Tomb. And we're going to play live for the first time with Jimmy Shulman on bass, Ron McNicky on drums. Nathan's flying out Saturday for the show, flying home Sunday. So we're going to step on stage together Saturday night, the first time the 4 of us have ever all been in the same room together. We'll be when we're on stage.
That's got to be daunting,
no
man.
There.
Yeah, I was going to say that's got to be absolutely scary jumping in front, and of course you do it in front of Life of Agony's crowd because they're so forgiving of bad bands, right?
Well, I have a Xanax ready in my guitar case, Chris, so if worse comes to worse, it might be even a little doomier than normal.
Sure. Now, are you thinking, long term? Are you thinking that this becomes a band, or is this going to stay more project? Because I'll be honest, it doesn't sound like you're even as much as you're loving the music, it doesn't sound like you're all the way over to okay, I'm ready to jump back in a van and run around the country to see if I can make this go.
Yeah, well, we can't go on any long tours because it's just so expensive when you're not a real band with a American label support or whatever. But
Right.
I have friends in high places. The bass player from Danzig is my neighbor.
Okay.
I'm super tight with Blitz and Dee Dee from Overkill. They love Vessel of Light.
Sure.
So I said, hey guys, please, somebody find a show we can open up for in Cleveland or Detroit or Philadelphia or New Jersey.
Right.
So I don't see the point in going out in a van, losing thousands of dollars and playing with a couple other bands who are no-name bands and playing in front of 65 people or 15 people a night. What we're going to try and do is just book really big shows, but I definitely don't. I want to push the hell out of Vessel of Light Woodshed for the next 6 months. I mean, I do want to play live for sure.
Excellent. Now, where can people hear more of Vessel of Light and pick up the record and all that good stuff?
Well, we're on iTunes, we're on Amazon, and if you like CDs or vinyl with lyrics, there's a distributor out of Trinidad, Colorado called All That Is Heavy. They distribute in America. Also, Cobra Side is our distributor. They have offices in Los Angeles and Chicago, and they distribute the album and the CD in America. And Argonauta, if you're in Europe, Argonauta Records is the record label, and it's distributed basically, every country has a different distributor. So it's a real release,
Sure, absolutely, man. And dude, certainly this has to be a passion project because you know as well as I do what the music business is today. Do you see anybody, not necessarily your band, but anybody really being able to launch as a new band and achieve, it'll never be sales, but even status of that the old guys had?
Well, Scott LePage is my old guitar player in Hades, and he has a son right now in a band called Polyphia.
Okay.
They don't even have a singer. They're progressive metal, progressive rock. They're in Australia right now, Mm-hmm. They started out just doing, this is like their third or fourth record they've already put out, and they're doing it, man. They're on tour. They started off slowly in a van, and now things are moving up and moving quickly for them. So it's like, you probably never heard of Polyphia, but they're playing in front of, 500 to 1,000 people a night anywhere in the world.
Sure. Wow, that's great. Do you?
So it's just a different scene because we're older.
Right. It is, and it's weird. And correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I honestly think it's a softer generation. They're not the younger kids. I've gone to a couple of the Rock on the Range festivals as an example, and I'll use the name of the band, but I love them. But that being said, they're certainly not metal, but they're considered metal as a band like Hailstorm. That gets a lot of attention. It's definitely not metal in the traditional sense. It's just kind of standard rock, but it's finding a niche, probably because Lizzie, before she cut her hair, was hot. But I'm always, there are heavier bands that are out there that have some success, Lamb of God, Kill Switch, etc. But it just doesn't seem like, I don't know, it just doesn't seem to me like there's any next level. Seems like Korn and Disturbed was the end of the big name bands.
Yeah, but then, what do you think of a band like Clutch? They're making a real good living playing this music, and of course they came out a long time ago, but I think there are bands that might even survive and flourish that we're not really even aware of, like I mentioned Polyphia,
sure,
because it's just such a different scene that we don't, you and I, people like you and I, it doesn't come to our attention.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really mean that it's not there and it's not happening and it's not, really actually moving some units. And I don't know what kind of money the kids are making. I don't think anybody's getting rich and buying mansions, but if they fucking do what they love and they make a decent enough living to just keep doing it, God bless them,
Yeah, well, I'm with you, man. Because if they don't, then we are really going to be stuck listening to rap, aren't we?
It's funny, man. I don't mind rap. Nathan hates it. Dee Dee Verney gets mad at me because I like Public Enemy.
Oh, I like that.
Like it. I like it. Oh, okay.
Dude, I like, I'll be honest, old school, Tupac, NWA, Public Enemy, that stuff, great, yeah. But Lil Pump and G-Eazy and today's stuff, not so much.
Yeah, well, I don't, I'm being like an old guy there because the newest hip hop I know and love is 50 Cent and Eminem.
Right.
That's like the new stuff for me. I can't tell you that I'm up on the current stuff, but yeah, I don't like there's tons of metal people dismiss, rap, and I fucking love it, whatever. I'm not going to deny it,
Yeah, exactly. You long since you're like me. You long ago turned in your metal card.
Yeah, but I mean, it's funny, man. It's like when I drive in my car, I listen to either Vessel of Light or sports radio or 1010 Wins, which is all news.
Sure.
When I'm home making phone calls, promoting Painful Pleasures, which is the tattoo supply company I work for, I listen to nothing. Like, I can do whatever I want. I can stick, but it's just like, man, my attention span is really short, Chris.
Right.
And it's just this, not a lot I need to hear musically, honestly,
No, I'm with you, man. I hear you. Well, dude, let's let the kids hear something musically. Let's let them hear a new track from Vessel of Light. Why don't you pick one to close out this interview and maybe tell us a quick story about it?
If you could play Son of Man, that would be great. When I first met Nathan and I knew he was a Satanist, I told him no satanic lyrics in my songs, please,
Right.
So he basically, he asked, well, what else do you like? And my wife and I said, well, we love the show Forensic Files. So
okay.
He started writing true crime, and every Sunday I'm in church and I hear the words Son of Man are written in the Bible, and it cracks me up. Our new single, our new video, Vessel of Light, is Son of Man. I'd love for you to spin this one.
All right, well, let's check it out right now. It is Vessel of Light with Son of Man right here on your Classic Metal Show.